we are officially 1 week away from the beginning of October 2023, the year of our spooky lords. That means it is officially spooky season. Because I spent yesterday going to every craft store, Spirit Halloween, to get myself in the mood. And that means we're going to be doing some creepy, suspenseful horror, AI inspired, or AI collaborated with. For the first one I'm going to talk about, it's not really inspired by AI, but I did use the chatbot to come up with their version of my story, even though it's like most of my attempts with chatbot, it's pretty generic, but we'll work it out because it's spooky season and we need to get these spooky stories up and out there. The first one I'm going to start off with, well, today is the 24th of September. Like I said, we're almost there to October, the full true spooky season. I'm still Kurt. This is still Dumb Test Slate. If you didn't know, episode 9, I think. The last one I did a month ago, but we're on that spooky season. That means I need to do one more because we got to get all these spooky ideas out there. So this one I'm titling, let me pull up my notes, Where the Mushroom Grows. For some reason, when I was getting into the story, and I was trying to think of what I would call it, I kept imagining, other than, the spooky imagery, but the book Where the Sidewalk Ends, and like a spooky take. Well, that's kind of spooky already. That if you read that book, it could get spooky. But no, Where the Mushroom Grows. Okay, so this one's inspired by my daily listening to true crime podcasts. I went away from them for a while, but I'm back on them because, like I said, it's spooky season. I'm gonna be saying that a lot. Get used to it. But writing notes for this, I could not find. It was a true crime podcast about serial killers, and I could not find, unless I was mistaking, and I'm thinking of another podcast, but I couldn't find which episode and which person it was specifically on, which is fine. I shouldn't be referencing other podcasts or giving shout outs or giving any kind of light to serial killers, but the main thing was this person used like an abandoned farm, or a farm that had like a lot of acres that weren't really noticed or being used that much, to hide the bodies of their victims. But one of the ways the bodies were discovered were by a couple of mushroom foragers who were like going on, hikes through the woods and to find, wild growing mushrooms, and digging in, I guess, different type of soil types and soft soil types, and, found, buried bodies or traces of buried or decomposing bodies or bones or something like that. And that made me think of the story idea. Where the mushroom goes, where the mushroom grows. It was also inspired by me rewatching the show on Hulu. It comes on FX, but I watch it on Hulu. What We Do in the Shadows, the mockumentary about vampires living in Rhode Island or upstate New York or somewhere up there. It was based on a movie, but like a mockumentary style of dark comedy. So like I said, this story, Where the Mushroom Grows, it would be based around like a couple, and they either buy a farm or adopt the farm, or like it gets inherited to them, but it's like a farm that hasn't been used forever, and it's kind of a creepy farm. But they never have luck like growing anything. They don't have any experience growing any vegetables or anything or crops, but they start finding these really weird and rare mushrooms. Like, they don't know anything about it, but they find mushrooms and they look up and they just can't find it. But then, that thing where they find that weird local and they explain to them, like, these are special mushrooms, these super rare mushrooms that haven't grown for hundreds of years or something like that. Or they find a new species of mushrooms that are super rare and like super expensive. So they're like, wow, we struck it rich with these weird mushrooms. But what they discover is the reason these mushrooms are respouting after, hundreds of years, or they're new or something like that, is because there's something buried in the ground. And like they said, they're novices of planting crops or doing anything like that. So they're just digging everywhere to see what's going on. And they realize that either that they're regular human bodies in the ground, and they hear whispers of like, there was a serial killer way in the past that used this as like where they disposed of their bodies and hid body parts. They like chopped up the bodies and hid certain parts here, stuff like that. They were never caught. And the dark humor twist is this couple finds these rare mushrooms that, are making them, or they want to use to make them rich, but they realize they're coming from suspect things, especially, dead bodies in the ground, or some kind of mixture of where it is. I'll have to pick a certain place where wild mushrooms really grow, and something mixed with the bodies in the ground and the type of soil, and something like that happens where these rare mushrooms grow. But the thing that like I could either spin it with just the serial killer part, but I think that would be, I was like, maybe the serial killer is still active and they see him burying a body, but they realize it's going to lead to mushrooms and they don't say anything. But I don't know where that would lead to or how far that will go. It kind of seems too open-ended. And it made me think of another story that I heard on a podcast about in Colorado, there's a place called Skinwalker Ranch. And for years, it's been going on about, I don't know if it's ever officially documented or just like urban legend or stories, or, one of the things that happens where they can't really prove it, but it's supposedly a ranch where a lot of paranormal activities have happened. With UFOs, with like abductions of cattle and like mutilation of cattle, where I think there was one where something was happening to one of the or a couple of the cows where they were being like surgically messed with like really surgical precision, and nobody can figure out who was doing it or why. And like they would find cows just missing blood. So they were like, UFOs are coming down or there's something. But also there's like an urban legend that Skinwalker Ranch, all these weird things are happening. There's this weird thing with this weird wolf that would show up. But one of the urban legends is that on that ranch, it's like a pinpoint spot where there's a portal to another dimension. And that's why all these weird things are happening, but nobody can see it because things are going back and forth. So I was like, that could be part of the story where it's not a serial killer. It's not a human serial killer. It's the couple that own the farm on, the story where the mushroom grows. They see the portal and they realize there's something from another dimension or another planet or whatever. I don't want to go on the UFO thing, but let's say another dimension. There's some kind of humanoid or something from another dimension that is coming over and disposing some kind of body, some kind of what we would think of humans in that dimension on this farm. And that's what's making the mushrooms grow. It could be this weird interdimensional glowing mushroom. I've been playing a lot of Zelda and I've been seeing a lot of glowing mushrooms. That's what else inspired me. But it could be that. So it could kind of take away the moral responsibility from the couple of a serial killer. Like they don't have to solve a crime or nothing. No police or FBI would show up. It's like no one will believe them that there's a portal to another dimension and there are beings coming over and dumping weird non-human things and burying them in this farm that are causing mushrooms to grow. Like nobody will believe us. So we're not going to tell anyone. We're just going to say this. Our farm has these weird mushrooms. I was thinking about that. And then it made me think of the movie Nope by Jordan Peele. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird because the brother and sister. But those are UFOs. I want to stay away from UFOs on this one. So I think like an interdimensional serial killer, something like that. Or just an interdimensional dumping ground portal is on their farm. And something is getting dumped and buried on their farm that's causing these weird mushrooms to grow. That's what I'm thinking. The setting for this story. Yeah, it's a short. It's an idea, but I don't know where the story. Because I don't know what. Every story has to have a conflict. The hero has to have some kind of conflict they need to get through. So for this one, I don't know who the hero would be, if it's the couple, if they're doing the right thing, or they're just trying to make the best thing of what's going on. But what their conflict would be, that's why I said, like, taking it away from being just a regular serial killer, it takes away the conflict of their morals. So I'm trying to think of what their conflict would be and where their story goes. If that's just a backdrop to a sci-fi backdrop to a couple story where their relationship is the main thing in the story, and there's just a weird backdrop of interdimensional mushrooms growing on this farm they're trying to run. I don't know, but that's where I am with this one. So of course I had to ask Chatbot what they thought of my idea and what they would come up with. So my prompt was a horror movie about a farm where rare mushrooms are growing because a serial killer used the farm to bury bodies. Pretty generic, and this is what they came up with. Their title was Fungi Harvest, which I think there is like a real, because I was looking up actual horror movies. There's a couple I saw where scientists, it's like a horror setting where scientists find out that like fungi is killing people, something like that. Or there was one where a couple of friends come across, like, on a camping trip or something like that, these weird mushrooms that are growing that are making people act crazy or something like that. I can't remember the name. But okay, back to Chatbot story. This is their log line. In a remote farm nestled deep within a dense forest, rare and sinister mushrooms thrive, concealing a gruesome secret. When a group of friends stumbles upon the farm during a camping trip, they unknowingly enter a nightmarish realm where the past and present collide and vengeful spirits of the serial killer's victims awake. That's a good, like, this one they go into talking about ghosts and spirits coming alive. The serial killer victims coming awake is something interesting. That's a good take. Like, the mushrooms would kind of turn the bodies into zombies that come back alive. But I'm not a big zombie fan. I'm not a big fan of a group of friends get stuck somewhere and something happens. Fungi Harvest is a chilling horror film that combines elements of supernatural terror, psychological horror, and survival horror, all set against the backdrop of a farm tainted by the darkest of secret. It explores the limits of human fear, trust, and resilience in the face of supernatural evil. I mean, I'm a fan of supernatural stuff, like I said. Too generic with it, just ghosts. The serial killer's victims coming back to life, that's another idea I have. I'm going to do it. Hopefully, I need to keep pushing myself to do more consistent episodes. Maybe I'll do that one next because it's fresh in my head about that story idea about serial killer's victims coming back to life. I'll do that. I'll make that promise. That'll be the next idea episode because I have like two separate ideas that kind of combine that. But yeah. Where the mushroom grows. Oh, maybe I can do that. So in the story, the couple thinks they hear all the whispers about, this is where, infamous serial killer were hiding their bodies or body parts. But then they realize that it is a supernatural thing with a portal to the other dimension, and other beings are coming across and dropping not humanoid bodies and burying them here. That's what's causing the mushrooms to grow. But I don't know where that's still, because that would be the conflict. They think it's one thing and then it's something else, but then where would that story go? How would that story end? Do the couple just go to the other dimension to figure out what's going on? and then it gets crazy. But yeah, that's my Where the Mushroom Grows idea. Maybe I'll revisit it. I'll dwell on it, and something else will come up. I have the setting. I have the characters. I have the conflict. I don't know what the plot and the story would be. I'll come up with that. Maybe chatbot will help me. But yeah, it's spooky season, guys. So get ready for spooks. Spooks and dukes and toques. Yeah. So the song in the beginning that's playing is called I Walk with Ghosts by Scott Buckley. From the website Chosic. It'll be in the show notes. It'll be on the website too. I have a website, Dumb Test Late. I have an Instagram that I don't update, Dumb Test Late. Check it out if you listen to this podcast. Thanks for listening. I want to do a bunch of these short ones with my spooky ideas. This is the first since we're creeping up on spooky season. But thanks for listening. Hope you hear me again. Bye.